Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike from 1AAuto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And next time you need parts for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the four-wheel drive, the front axle actuating cable. A lot of times these will corrode and rust and bind up, and it'll cause your front axle not to engage correctly. Tools you'll need for this job are 8mm wrench or socket and ratchet, a 13 and 15mm sockets with ratchet and extension, some penetrating oil, 16mm wrench, some pliers, and a small flat blade screwdriver.
Okay, take an 8mm wrench or socket and ratchet and disconnect your negative battery cable and your positive battery cable.
Speed up here as I do that.
I disconnect them and I pull the cable right over here. I'm going to use a 13mm socket with a ratchet extension and remove this bolt and this clamp.
Speed up again as I remove that battery mounting bolt and the mount itself.
Once those are removed, you can lift your battery right out. Okay, now you want to remove your battery tray. You want to remove two bolts into the radiator support, one there and then one right here. Those are 13mm.
Speed up again as I remove those two bolts.
Okay, now pull the back of the tray up and off that bolt. And it comes right out. Now right in here is your top end of your cable. Okay, you should be able to take this, squeeze it, and that should move pretty easily. Okay, sometimes these cables will get frozen up and they won't move if you don't use them very often. Okay, the other end of our cable comes down here. I'm going to use some penetrating oil, coat that up real good, and let that sit while I take the top apart. To unhook the cable, all you want to do is pull up on this little clip. It's like a wire clip. Pull it up and out. Okay, and then you can see that the cable come right out. Okay, here in your passenger's wheel well, I've turned the wheel all the way to the left. There's two bolts that hold that bracket. I'm going to remove those.
And we'll obviously speed it up again as we just remove those two bolts. And we're just removing that bracket. It makes it a lot easier to get the cable out of it.
Okay, so now I can bring this right up and use a pair of pliers and squeeze these teeth right here. Force the cable through. Okay, right down in here, so you can see the cable goes through a little clip. There's a 13mm bolt. I'm going to remove that.
Fast forward here as I use a socket, a ratchet, and a large extension to remove that bolt.
Okay, if you have a tube wrench, that's the best tool for the job. Otherwise, a 16mm and a little bit of force, and you should be able to break that free. Then you want to just kind of pull this off until it's going easily. Okay, and a 15mm socket. I'm going to cheat here a little bit. Use an air ratchet. Remove these three bolts.
And as usual, we'll speed up here as we just remove those bolts.
Okay, now you pull this out, okay, and reach. You should be able to feel a little the lock right here, pull it down with your fingernail, and then it comes apart. Okay, and now you can take the cable out. Okay, and there's your cable out of the vehicle. Okay, and then when we try and pull this and push it, it's pretty free, but it is a little difficult, and that's what happens with these a lot. They bind up and they just get corroded inside. Okay, so I'll take my new cable and I put my little clamp on it. And let's feed it right down in here. Clamp through there. There's this one hose going to pull up out of the way. Okay, put that clamp in place. Bolt it in. Okay, make sure that your cable is basically pushed down in like that. Okay, under here. Bring that through. And pretty much just get it kind of finger tight in there. Okay, so make sure, put this in, make sure your cable goes in there.
Okay, now speed it up here as we start the bolts in. I always start all three of them first, then kind of get them snug and then tighten them up afterwards. They only need to be tightened to about 25 foot-pounds. They do not need to be extremely tight. Then make sure you tighten up the 16mm fitting on the cable. Here I'm fast forwarding through. I'm holding the actuator and bracket in my other hand that you can't see, and then just threading the bolts in from the wheel well side and then tightening them up nice and snug. Again, they don't have to be extremely tight.
Now take this, see it still pulls out, push it in so it locks in place. Okay, now you're pulling on that axle actuator. Make sure we have our clip in place for this actuator here. Put the cable through and in there. Make sure that the cable goes in there and actually push it in so that they're moving as one. Okay. Push the cable into the bracket here. Use a small screwdriver. Pry up those ears. Make sure it's locked in place. Okay, before you go put your battery tray in, what happens a lot is the clip gets knocked off of here. Pull your clips up on your headlight. Okay, pull your headlight out. And usually that clip falls right down in here.
And here I'm using a little extendable magnet to fish the clip out.
Okay, put our light back in place. This clip goes right back on here. like that.
Okay, now I'm going to put the battery tray in. You want to put the front down in first, then the back down over the bolt. Put the 2 bolts into the radiator support, and then you'll put the battery back down in, put the mount in, and then the nut, and you should be all finished. Then reconnect your battery. You want to connect the positive cable first and then the negative cable, and you should be all set to go. We hope this helps you out. Brought to you by www.1aauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.